Hello and welcome back to Stateside Sports. We're continuing our World Cup kind of review and very, very fortunate and very, very lucky to have landed John Nichol, long-serving member of the Tartan Army at that. John, welcome to the show.
Hi, good to be on it.
Great to have you. I've known John and his son Craig for a while, and there is this fun thing when it comes to Scotland games and you and Craig, where if you watch TV, used to always end up to be at some point during either the game, post-game, pre-game, on camera somewhere. Even if it's just when like the stadium do the wee camera pan of the fans, you guys always seem to get spotted.
It's a strange one because we don't look for the camera, but the camera finds us. I think it's quite often we did coordinate the same jerseys to wear on the same day. So we would wear the same Scotland jersey or the same T-shirts or whatever. So yeah, we would do things like that. But yeah, why the camera finds us, no idea.
It's got to be fun to be this famous, right?
I don't seek anybody who knows me knows I'm the other side of the camera. I'm always the one filming people. I'm always the one taking photographs of people. But for some reason with the Tartan Army, I'm always front and center when the camera's going. When I was away on the trip, and I was away for 25 days, I was interviewed by Mexico TV, by Brazil TV, European TV, American several times on the TV, mainly because you're wearing the kilt, Glengarry, you look the part, and as soon as you come out of the stadium, we come out of the stadium after losing 3-0 to Brazil, and it was a Mexican guy that caught me saying, likelihood is if you get through, you'll play Mexico in the Azteca Stadium, and it was like, yeah, possibly, but at that stage, we didn't realise we weren't going to make it, so yeah. Oh, good.
Yeah, I suppose at that stage it was kind of a done deal. There was the way that the World Cup worked this time round with all the extra teams, there was going to be like 8 teams from the best third place teams that would have got through. Scotland sadly didn't make that cut. But let's talk about Boston, because if I even before Boston, let's talk about your history with the Tartan Army. How long have you been a member of the Tartan Army?
Well, I've been going to Scotland games since the early 1970s. My first away trip was 1977 when I went down to Anfield, not an away trip you would expect to make, but Scotland played Wales in a qualifying game for the World Cup in 1978. And I went down there and it was in the Welsh end and we won 2-0 that day. My second away trip was down at Wembley where we beat England 1-0 with John Robertson scoring a penalty. So I was hooked from a very, very early age. So I've been going to away games for a long, long time.
There's a funny story I've got from the 98 World Cup. I was actually travelling through France to Spain for a basketball tour in Barcelona during the 98 World Cup. We'd already played Brazil, but we had Morocco and Norway to go. Were you yourself in France for 1998?
I was in France for 1998. However, I wasn't at the World Cup. We were away on a holiday because my kids were too young to go to football. So Craig and Callum were not old enough. Craig probably was old enough, but Callum wasn't old enough to go to the game. So we had a family holiday booked instead. And we did get caught up in the atmosphere. We were in the Champs-Élysées when they paraded the World Cup down the Champs-Élysées, and there was over 1 million fans there. We got really close to the bus with the trophy on it, but we didn't go to the games on that stage because, as I said, it was a family holiday rather than the World Cup at that stage.
Now, Craig's a little older, so obviously you guys flew out to Boston, and I mean, all I've seen is all the social media stuff that's come on Instagram, Facebook. Biggest fan stories have come out of the Tartan Army. When you guys land in Boston, what is the kind of reception from Bostonians? Because they kind of, from what I'd seen, arms were wide open to you guys all.
So I think Scotland needed Boston and Boston needed Scotland. I think that was a match made in heaven because the Scottish fans make friends everywhere we go, but the Bostonians are used to the Irish heritage, the Celtic heritage, and they saw the Scottish fans coming in with kilts and bagpipes and having a lot of fun. Now, the Bostonians are big on sports. The Patriots, the Red Sox, the ice hockey team, I think is the Bruins or whatever. But they've got a great sporting history. And Scotland has another great sporting history. So two groups coming together. Where I think it clicked was once we started to have a good time. And even though the current Boston sports teams are not doing that well, although I think the Red Sox went on a great run after we arrived. But up until then, the Bostonian sports haven't been doing well, so they couldn't understand a group of fans having a great time. And we don't win things. We don't win the European Championships. We don't qualify for the World Cup that much. So to have a great party atmosphere, regardless of the results, was something that I think just struck a chord with them. So yeah, we just clicked right from the day one, and there's some great stories we had in Boston. But yeah, really, really good stories.
Yeah, it looked immense, and I think almost as soon as the Tartan Army landed, you started to see the stories come out. One of the stories that I seen, and it's one that's probably one of my most favourite, was the bin men who clean up the parks turned up, and all the cans, all the bottles, everything else were all in piles ready for them. So all they had to do is just scoop them up, and their job for the day was done.
So we do that everywhere. We do that everywhere, because obviously the Scottish fans drink a lot, and they drink in a good way. That's the good thing about the Tartan Army, is that we will tell people in advance that the Scottish fans are coming. We'll tell them to order in the beer. They will order in the beer. We've got it covered, and they always never have enough. It's always the way. But we do it in good humour, in a good style and good grace, and still have friends, and we self-police. So therefore, if anybody steps out of line, it's the Scottish fans bringing them into line, or Scottish fans looking after them. So we don't have a bad reputation. Quite often, if it's outdoors, the Scottish fans will clean up their mess, but there's usually not enough bins, so they'll stack the rubbish up next to the bins to make it as easy as possible. I know the Japanese have a great reputation for doing that in the stadiums. The Scottish fans have a great reputation for doing something likewise as well, but we always like to leave a positive, lasting memory everywhere we go, and that's part of it, I think. You know, the culture's part of it, but also making sure we leave things at least in as good a condition. But the traffic cones, free liquid and fountains, the charitable stuff. There's so many fun things that we do that other supporters just don't do. So, yeah.
You mentioned the charitable side of the Tartan Army, and we had a guy walking, Craig Ferguson was walking from Los Angeles to Boston in time for the opening game against Haiti, and he raised over £1 million for mental health charities here in Scotland. And then not only that, but then you start hearing, like, especially the Boston news outlets were like, the Tartan Army have just donated like thousands of dollars to like the various charities in Boston. And I think that's probably the first time I've heard of that, but it's not the only time that they've done it, because apparently they do it everywhere they go as well. But I think because it actually made the news, it actually got noticed this time and recognised, which I think is phenomenal.
It's been creeping up. I think we've only once done it inside a stadium, and I think that was in Hungary. Slovakia, I think it was, where they actually did the Czech presentation on the pitch. But generally speaking, it's done away from the media attention. The two main charities are the Tartan Army Children's Charity, who do all competitive games, and the Tartan Army Sunshine Appeal, who do every game, whether it's a friendly or a competitive game. The Tartan Army Sunshine Appeal, I think, has now done 23 years worth of donations, and they'll do it at every game we go to. So if that's 5 away trips, 6 away trips a year, even if it's your most fiercest rival like England, they'll still make a donation. There's nothing to do here with football. It's all to do with leaving a lasting memory. And they'll donate things like a donation of about €5,000, £5,000 every single city we go to. In Boston, I think the total was upward of 50,000. I think a lot of that was the Providence Tartan Army. So again, it's something that forms in places we go to. They have a lot of expats there who wanted to welcome the Scots in, and they put in a lot of good foundation work prior to us arriving. Hence the T-shirts we're wearing today and things like that. They already pre-organised this from about 4 or 5 months in advance. So there was a lot of planning went in. And in total, I think they helped us raise about $50,000 for the Boston area. As well as we were down in New York and New Jersey. We gave money down in Miami as well. Where I think it mattered most, I think where it really hit home for me, was that we do this every time we go, and we don't think much of it because we just think it's natural to us. The Scots are a very welcoming, generous nation. The Bostonians made a $10,000 donation to a Glasgow hospital in return favour. So we're bit by bit changing people's minds of what you can do. And I think that's what really hits home, and the money we donate often doesn't go to big professional charities. It goes to those who are normally staffed by volunteers. So it really makes a big difference. So although it might not be a huge amount of money, it makes a big difference to the charities that we donate to. Yeah, it's a really good thing to do. I don't know any other support.
And to be fair, up until this World Cup, I didn't really know that the Tartan Army did it. It was when I started looking into it more and started reading about it more, I was like, actually, they do this everywhere. This is phenomenal. Like, a fan base go to wherever it is in the world and donate money to local charities, do things like walk across America, which I followed Craig Ferguson on social media while he was doing that whole thing. Phenomenal job. Obviously, I mean, his legs must be absolutely shattered. He's probably going to take the next 2 months off doing whatever he's doing. It's absolutely phenomenal. John, one of the biggest things of this World Cup is politics has, played a part.
Yeah.
But I have to say, like, in Boston, the part that politics played is it was almost as if the governor of Massachusetts, the mayor of Boston, didn't want to be in their offices. They didn't want their people to be in the offices. They wanted their people to be out and them as well experiencing the Tartan Army. And you could not get the governor of Massachusetts away from the Tartan Army. Everywhere like cameras went, I mean, she's a politician, but still, everywhere the cameras went, she was there. She was drinking Iron Brew. It was so nice to see like the Tartan Army break through the political barrier, break through charities, bringing in money to cities and breaking down so many barriers, like dancing the street with Iraq fans and stuff like that. Yeah. How, for you, like when you see that all these different things happening all at one time as well, it must be quite humbling, I would imagine.
Well, we didn't realize how big it was getting, right? Because we do this all the time. And we are received like this pretty well everywhere we go. And it's not usually made a big deal. Where I did think it worked with the Bostonians was that I think you mentioned politics or the political theme in the country. I think they've been fed a line that the world is in conflict. A lot of people don't get on with each other. There's wars all over the place. And then suddenly you've got this group of football fans coming in and they're having friends with other nations. You've got the Norwegians, the Iraqis, any other country that was playing in the World Cup were just being friends with each other, and they couldn't get their heads around that. And it was almost like it didn't fit with the narrative they'd been played with for quite a while, and that intrigued them. And I think that's what really stoked the interest to say, we need more of this, because I think some of the Bostonians said we lit a spark under them. We reminded them of what Boston used to be like, and we came into town just being ourselves, and then suddenly we released some energy within the Bostonians to say, we want to be part of this. We want to be part of this group. They're a fun group. We knew England were coming in after us, and we knew it wouldn't be quite the same because they're more serious and they're much more expectant in terms of winning the World Cup. And the Scots have no pretense about doing that. So we will have a good time. And the only 90 minutes we can't control is 90 minutes on the football pitch, which means that the rest of the trip's not going to be ruined by a football result. We're going to have a good time regardless. And that's why we behave the way we do. And I think Bostonians just love that. And if you want to talk about the Red Sox game, for example, I had several Red Sox fans telling me during the game, why are you guys singing? We're getting beat. And we said, but that's what we do. We have a party, win, lose or draw. And if we win, it's a bigger party. But if we lose, it's still a party. And that's what they couldn't get their head round. And now I'm watching Red Sox games now where they're taking their taps off, as we call it, swinging their jerseys around their heads. And we kind of felt we wanted to change baseball. And I think we have in some small way, because we turned up, we sang. Some of the commentators during the games were saying the music has stopped playing in the stadium. Normally the fans stop singing when the music stops, but the Scotland fans are going to sing it to the end of the song and they know the words to it and nobody's going to stop them. And they were laughing about it, but it's exactly what you do in a soccer game or a football game as opposed to a baseball game. So we just brought fun all the way through.
I think there was one commentator said, hang on, there wasn't even any music playing. There still isn't. Yeah. And they're just singing their own songs now. Like, it was even after the music had finished. Oh, well, there's no song. Let's just keep going. Let's just keep it running. Some of the commentary that we got from the Tartan Army, I think it was STV News were out there. And they're like, did you enjoy the baseball? Yeah, it was great. Did you understand it? No, not a clue. Now, you'd mentioned to me before we started recording that the Oakland A's, you've been out to the Coliseum way back when they were there. And so you've seen a baseball game before. So you probably have a bit more knowledge. Was it a good game?
It was a really good game, actually. Normally, I love baseball because I love sports and I love competition. The first baseball game I was lectured on or taught on how to understand the rules was the Bay final between the San Francisco Giants and the Oakland A's. And I wasn't going to the game. I was going to a bar to watch the game, but that's when the big earthquake hit in 89 and we didn't have the opportunity to go there. But that was when I was told how to understand the rules of the game and the innings and everything else. And actually, for the purists of the game, the best games are the lowest scoring ones because it's the pitchers who are dominating the plays. So for some people who are used to scoring more goals makes more entertainment, this was always going to be a bit of a challenge for some of the Scottish fans. Half of our group weren't that fussed about going to the baseball. The other half wanted to experience the famous pitch, like the park, like Fenway Park. Afterwards, all of us fell in love with baseball. Every single one of us. And some of us have started buying baseball jerseys and other things like that since then. Because on that trip, I actually went to the Yankees Stadium after the friendly we had against Bolivia in New York. I went to New York on the Sunday and watched the Yankees play the Red Sox, and they won 6-1 that day. But Yankee Stadium was a bit sterile. I hope I'm not offending anybody who's a Yankees fan, but it was a big modern stadium with a bit of chanting going on, but it wasn't really an atmosphere. There was no character around it. Fenway Park has real character. Fenway Park is an old school, I think it's the oldest stadium going, and it has a real character and something about it. But it wasn't just the game that we loved. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, and I don't think I've seen an awful lot of videos afterwards, but for 1 hour, after the game had finished, the Scottish fans are still singing in the concourse underneath the stands. And the Americans are filming the Scottish fans singing. The John McGinn song went on for 40 minutes without a stop. The police came up to us in the nicest way possible after an hour and said, "Could you please leave the stadium? You can sing and dance outside, but the security staff need to go home. They've done all the work and they would just like to go home." So it was as polite as a "could you please leave" as possible. But the Americans just loved this and couldn't understand because the Red Sox lost 6-4 that night to the Rangers, Texas Rangers. And the Rangers players interviewed after the game said it was the best atmosphere outside the playoffs that they've ever experienced. So we kind of did a bit to change baseball. But that was just the Scots being the Scots. That's all we are.
I actually seen some videos from Miami as well after the game at the Marlins. And I think that just speaks to the joy that the Tartan Army bring. I think my kind of proper first experience of seeing the Tartan Army on TV was France 98. Like I was aware of them before that, but properly it was France 98. And there was one guy, I think I've said this before, he gets interviewed on STV News. And he's like, you here to enjoy it? I've not got a ticket. No, I've not got a ticket. All right, so are you just going to be watching a bar? Aye, but can we not tell my wife? Because I only popped out for a pint of milk.
Yeah, that's the Scottish humour.
That's the Scottish humour.
Listen, a lot of people will tell us, what was it like? You went there, you won one game and lost two, or in the Euros, we went there and we drew one and lost two as well. It must have been terrible. It's like, anybody who went on the trip said, no, it's a great trip. You don't understand that it's not always about the results. And just to pick up on the Marlins game, I'm not a fan of dome stadiums because I think the Scottish fans struggled with the singing in there because they were singing, but the echo is out of time with what their singing is. So they thought that somebody else was starting another verse out of turn. So it kept getting caught up. So the dome stadiums can't do the singing in the same way an open air stadium can. So I learned something on the trip. But I'll tell you something though, Nick Morgan's pre-game show was absolutely superb before the Marlins game. He was on stage for about 20 odd minutes singing Scottish songs, and we had all of the spectators looking down on us singing songs. And actually a lot of people will say we're anti-English. We know we don't want England to win the tournament because we'll never hear the end of it. Yeah. But actually we've only got one anti-English song. The rest of them are actually Scottish songs, Scott McTominay or Billy Gilmore or No Scotland, No Party, or all the songs are actually about Scotland. They're not about anybody else. So
they're positive.
The rivalry doesn't come through the songs.
Yeah, they're absolutely positive. I've always said that the rivalry comes through the English media. because
Correct.
like we all have a stopwatch on the first broadcast. How long are we going to hear 1966? So the last thing we want to hear is about 2026 or 2030 or
Exactly.
anything like that. So that's the only reason. I've been picked up on this on social media over the last week or two, where, the Scotland just anybody but England. Yes, because then we have to hear about it. When did 1966 happen? And we're still hearing about it.
But the way to turn that around is quite easy. The English don't want Germany or Argentina to win anything. So they talk about those two countries in exactly the same way we talk about England. They're our big rivals. They're big, noisy next-door neighbours. They're a better team. They've got more talent to pick from. And you're absolutely right. It's not the English people. It's the English media who have already won the tournament before they've even started and kicked the ball. So there's no respect for the opposition. They have a go at Scotland saying, why even go into the World Cup? You're not going to win it. But, 47 of the 48 teams were never going to win it. It's not about winning. It's about being part of it. And if you look at the legacy we've left, or if you watched Cape Verde play, or if you watched a lot of the other teams playing, it's like they've left long-lasting memories and they've made a big impact on the sport. So the World Cup, thankfully, it was a bigger World Cup. We qualified on merit. We didn't qualify through the backdoor route. We won our group with 2 teams seeded higher than us to get to the World Cup finals. But what we didn't have was the favourable draw in the finals, because we were the only country that had 2 top 10 seeds in our group. And that's what did us in the tournament, because I actually think we could have progressed to the knockout stages, but we had Morocco and Brazil, and we just made bad defensive mistakes in one of those games in particular that cost us dearly. So.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, when you go to a World Cup, it can be one mistake that kills you and can end a tournament for you. You mentioned Cape Verde there, another team who had never qualified for World Cup, but also did it on merit. Like, if it had been the old way, they still would have actually qualified, which is phenomenal. And then they went on and pushed Argentina and scored that absolute belter of a goal, which was phenomenal. What was the biggest highlight for you on the pitch throughout the tournament in terms of Scotland?
My favourite part in game day situation was probably the national anthem in the Haiti game. I actually looked around next to me and there were people in tears. I know we broke the world record for the noise levels of that game. I know everybody round about me sang it at the highest level. There was 28 years worth of release coming out in that national anthem. And before the ball was even kicked, we were so up for that game. And there was only one outcome that day. We were going to win the game, and Haiti were a really good side. And we did get the win, and maybe a draw would have been a fairer result over the piece, but we got the win. John McGinn scored the goal. But to me, the highlight was that pre-game national anthem. That 2 or 3 minutes there was so memorable. I'll never forget that rest of my life.
I watched it on TV, and I don't think you got the feel of it on TV. So it wasn't until I watched it back on social media where people in the stadium had taken videos. That's when like you really heard it. Because obviously when it's on TV, they can control all the noise levels and everything else. Yeah. But when it's coming from like a microphone of a phone, very different. And I have to say, it made the hair on the back of my neck stand up when you heard it. And I didn't hear it again till the next day, but I was just like, I wish I'd been there. Because that was something else. So you absolutely...
The result itself, that was only the 5th time we'd won a game in World Cup final history. So, you can never take that one game and say it was significant. It was significant. It's in history now, but it was significant. I think we were unlucky in Morocco. I thought we had 3 big refereeing decisions that didn't go our way. I think the McGinn penalty incident, that latterly the referee said he thought the ball was going out of the pitch, but then in other games when the same incident happens outside the pitch, outside the penalty box, it's given. So it was an unfortunate decision. I think we should have had a penalty then. I think Shea Adams was through on goals when he was fouled as a last man. We thought that was a goal-scoring opportunity. It could have been a red card, but we never got it. And then maybe the least of the 3 was the McTominay incident inside the box when he fell, and he clearly felt he was fouled. And that wasn't given either. Any one of those 3 decisions, and we are in the next round. But yeah, it didn't happen.
That's the thing, like that game. And as a Scottish person, when we go to when we don't make these tournaments, I remember a good few years ago now, can't remember which World Cup we were trying to qualify for. It might have been South Africa. But I remember we were playing Italy in the final game. And I think all we needed was a draw. And the referee in the 92nd minute gave a free kick. And the Italian player's like, that's a free kick? All right, I'll take it. He's not going to say no. And they score from the free kick. And I always kind of close my eyes sometimes watching Scotland. And it's not watching Scotland, it's what the referee's going to do. How is the referee? And, they say like in a football season that, decisions will kind of flatten out throughout the season and whatever else. But when you've got a tournament that only has potentially only 3 games in it, you don't have that amount of time to like level the playing field later in the season. So it can be heartbreaking sometimes.
Yeah, when we didn't have goal scorers, we knew we'd struggle to score goals. But watching the Moroccan players celebrate at the end of that game, they knew that was a big win for them. And that's why I think it felt that was the opportunity gone. We knew we were going to struggle to beat Brazil and we were going to be down in goal difference territory. I mean, playing Brazil at 5 p.m. in Miami with the humidity and the temperature down there was never going to be an easy. I know England complained when they were down there, but we were playing Brazil. England were playing Norway. It's different playing a team from a similar latitude, but playing Brazilians down there was struggling to, 5 or 10 minutes outside of Miami and you were struggling, never mind playing 90 minutes of football. So, yeah, I think we were always going to be losing that game. But yeah, the Moroccan one was the one that hurt.
Morocco was, and funnily enough, Morocco back in 98 was probably the one that hurt as well.
Yeah.
Because at that time, they didn't have a team like they have now. But yeah, it was definitely a sore one both times. But hopefully, when we qualify for the World Cup in 2030, and there's 64 teams by this point, hopefully we can not draw Morocco.
Remember, it's not easy qualifying from Europe. Let the smallest proportion of teams get through from Europe of any other conference. I think in South America, more than half the countries qualify for the finals. But in Europe, it's a small percentage. And I think this doesn't do well for Scotland, but of the teams that go through, the 16 European teams, I think, and I'd have to go and double check the numbers, but I thought 12 of them made it through to the knockout stages. So only 4 were eliminated at the group stage, which shows the strength and depth of the European conferences. So it's always hard getting to the World Cup through Europe, which is why we've waited 28 years. And you rightly point out, we've had a lot of near misses. You mentioned the Italy game. We beat France, remember, home and away, and we still couldn't qualify in that year. We had Poland in the last game. I remember being there. I did this to get Alan McLeod inducted to Hall of Fame. There was a group of about 15 of us walked from Somerset Park in Ayr to Hampden Park. We set off at 2:00 in the morning, and we did a lap of honour before the Poland game. And at the end of that night, Poland scored with the last kick of the ball. It hit the post. It never even hit the net. It just rolled over the line. And that last kick of the game made it a 2-each game that knocked us out as well, another tournament. So we've been so down in the luck for so long that, as I said, 28 years. And what was interesting, you know my son well enough, but he reflected on this trip. We had to go on a trip because if it's been 28 years, he worked out how old it would be if it was another 28 years we had to wait. And so you have to go and do these things right now because you never know. Tomorrow's never promised. You never know what's going to happen. So, yeah. These are memories that will last for us for the rest of our life. And that's what makes going away with the Tartan Army so special.
Yeah, and I think what all of you did for Scottish-American relations over this tournament has been phenomenal. Bostonians, baby boom will impact us in about 20 years' time. And we can start pulling some American players to come and play for Scotland. But we've seen stuff like that. Like there was love stories. There was a guy, I think that was the Fenway Park game. I think that's where they met. And they'd went, because it was Pride Night at Fenway Park as well. I think you guys probably picked the right night.
It doesn't matter what night we went. I mean, we initially thought there was going to be 5,000 fans, but I think more than half the stadium was Scottish. So a lot of people went there just because they heard of the interest going there. But yeah, it's forged relationships. I'll give you some examples of some stories. We were in Airbnb, so we were in out of town, Arlington, I think it was, outside Boston. So we had hired a van to go and drive people back and forth. The beer fridge was full, 75% of beer and alcohol, 25% food. So you get the proportions of what it's like being away with the Tartan Army. When they went down to the liquor store, and you turn up in liquor store with kilts on, these guys are walking up saying, "You're part of the Tartan Army." You became a local, local celebrity, basically. There was a guy in there gave us $60 worth of beer vouchers. $60 of beer
Nice.
vouchers just because we were
Wow.
Scottish. There was a lady that left a note on our windscreen on our car outside our Airbnb, and we thought, uh-oh, we're in trouble here. Read the note, and she says, "I live about 5 doors up. Could you please pop up?" And she gave us a case of beer when we got up there. She said, "I love the Tartan Army." We went to Salem. We went to Salem, and we were doing our own version of our own tour. We kind of reading from Wikipedia and what this was all about. And this woman came out of a museum and said, "Are you from Scotland?" Of course, you've got all these guys in kilts. There was no answer to that other than yes. She said, "Oh, you need to come across the museum, and it's a great museum." So we did. About 10, 15 minutes later, headed across the museum. The second in charge at the museum saw that we were all Scottish, and it's $25 a pop to go into the museum. And he waived that fee to just allow us to go in there. So the welcoming we had was across the board. And these are people that was in Salem, it was in Arlington, it was in Boston, it was all over the place. I had people who were in Providence and Rhode Island. It's exactly the same thing. No matter where we went, the Scottish fans were making a connection with the local people. And every one of them, it was a positive reaction. And the feeling was mutual. We actually saving up because one of the people who bought us some beer across there, his wife is expecting. So we're buying a baby outfit for the baby with their name on it, and it's Scottish, obviously, and we're going to ship it across there for them as well. So these things are continuing well after the trip has ended. So yeah, I think we'll be back in Boston on more than one occasion. I'm sure of that.
Well, the governor of Massachusetts has said what we need to do is we need to have the Tartan Army back next year, same time, and she wants to make like it a big event. You've also had Robert Kraft. Now, obviously, the NFL season doesn't start for another month and a half, but you've had Robert Kraft come out and say, "We want to look at Murrayfield in Edinburgh. Let's get the Patriots over there. Let's get a game, Roger Goodell." And now, I don't think I've heard any kind of statements from Roger Goodell, probably because he's still on holiday. But like that, bringing an NFL team is a big deal. And you see it now in London, you see it in Germany and in Spain. Like if they were to bring an NFL game, now I remember I had a season ticket for the Scottish Claymores back in the day. And like, could you ever have imagined having an actual NFL game? And you know what Murrayfield's like. If that is sold out to an NFL game, I don't think that they could ever not have another game there.
So the good news is the Patriots have followed up on that. They've already, I think, promised 300 tickets for the game in Munich in this year. So at the moment, there's a Tartan Army group chat. I think there's about 400 or 500 people interested in those 300 tickets. So there's a bit of a challenge to try and get one. But that falls in between our away trips to Switzerland and Slovenia or something. So it's possible, it's doable with the dates. But yeah, we're looking to try and do a Scotland away trip and be in Munich for an NFL game as well. That would be absolutely superb. But yeah, the feeling, the mutual feeling across the board has been absolutely superb. And actually, that we shouldn't not go through this and not talk about traffic cones, because a number of Americans and Bostonians say, "What is this about traffic cones? Why do you guys put traffic cones on statues?" And we tell them the story, and then they suddenly realize that actually, I said, so in Glasgow, I'm sure you know the story, but in Glasgow one night, many years ago, somebody was drunk and decided he thought it would be a good idea to put a traffic cone on top of George Wellington's statue in Glasgow near George Square. And how he was drunk and did that, I have no idea, because it's quite a climb. And managed to get this cone on top of the statue. The local council decided, the city chambers decided that it wasn't appropriate, it wasn't safe, we needed to take it down. And then the next day, somebody put it back up again. And this went on for several weeks. And eventually the council thought, we need to raise the plinth because the horse was on a plinth, and we need to raise it higher so people can't climb up on it. And then the people of Glasgow had a petition, and over 30,000 people signed the petition to say, we want the cone to remain on the statue. And ever since then, it's been allowed to stay on there. You've even got a firm of solicitors or lawyers. They actually use that iconic statue with the cone on its head as their icon for their logo for their firm. So it's probably the most photographed statue in Scotland. So when we go abroad, we just do this for a bit of fun. And suddenly people were noticing statues in Boston that they've never seen before because they just walk past them. And now they've got a cone on their head and they take photographs of them. And we said, look, you'll have more photographs taken of these statues in Boston in the next 2 weeks than you will for the next 10 years. but you'll remember the day the Scots were in town, and you'll remember taking a photograph, and you'll have a smile because we were there and we left that memory for you. So those memories are there, and they're done in a harmless, fun way, and people have taken to it. So it's great to see it happen. But yeah, we've left a lasting legacy, I think.
The cone thing is phenomenal. A bit like the Iron Brew thing with the governor. You go out in Edinburgh on a night out and there's somebody trying to lob a cone up at a statue.
Yeah.
It probably happens everywhere over Scotland now. But the funny clip that I seen was the Tartan Army literally just landed in Miami, and there's a guy, and he's trying to put a cone up on top of the statue, and there's a copper out of camera. Yeah. Get down from there, take that code down. Yeah. What are you doing? Get down. And then there's a next clip, and it's probably about 10 minutes later. Obviously, it's been explained to the copper what's going on.
Correct.
And he's just like, aye, on you go then. On you go then.
It's a true story, and we saw it happening in Miami, and it changed that quickly. It was that quick. But to me, because I'm a big NFL fan, seeing Edelman and Gronk climb up a statue and put a cone on it in Boston, that was in kilts, and that was it. I thought, we've really made an impact here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you're going to get two absolute nutters from the NFL, I mean, Gronk and Edelman are probably the right two, to be fair. But it was phenomenal World Cup. Absolutely phenomenal. Yeah. But I'm going to get you out on a quick fire round, ask you some quick questions, not just about this World Cup, but your time as a member of the Tartan Army. So, number one, what is the favourite city you've visited?
Well, that's a great question. There's a lot on that list, but Ljubljana, Slovenia.
Ljubljana. Best stadium?
Azteca Stadium, Mexico City.
Mexico City. Best away pub?
Ooh. Well, I took Craig to the highest Irish bar in Cusco in Peru because we went to Machu Picchu, and it's the highest bar anywhere in the world, and there's a sign on the wall that says that. And that was great. It was a great night in there because they love the Scottish people in kilts up there as well. Yeah.
There you go. See, we're welcomed everywhere we go. Best chant?
I think No Scotland, No Party. Other fans sing it now to us. And I remember being on, I think, a tram after a Ukraine versus Slovakia game in the Euros, and they were singing that to us because we had kilts on. And they were singing No Scotland, No Party to us. So yeah, that chant. And it's been adapted because it was made for Germany, and they changed some of the words for America, and Berlin became Boston, and various other things were changed, and it became very topical. So that's the best chant, yeah.
Yeah.
And it sums up the Scots. It sums up the Scots because there is no party without the Scots, and that's what we live to. So that's why it's so memorable.
Exactly. Best Scotland player?
Oh, there's so many good ones. I would say there's a few more recent ones, but it'd be a toss-up between Dennis Law and Kenny Dalglish. And I've seen both of them play.
I'm a little young, but I've seen clips.
Then, if you want to see a clip, listen to Dennis Law talking about what it meant to play for Scotland. He has tears running down his eyes.
I've seen that.
That hits.
Most memorable moment as a member of the Tartan Army?
There's been so many, because I saw us qualify for 5 World Cups in a row. So beating Czechoslovakia at home, beating Wales away from home, beating Czechoslovakia again in 77, qualifying then, beating Denmark, the 4-2 game where 3 of the best goals were scored in one game. You have to be in the stadium when you qualify. There is nothing that beats that. And I've seen that many times over. And I wouldn't want to single one of them out because every one of them was special. But being in the stadium the night you qualify for a major tournament, nothing beats that.
Right then. Best food that you've tried around the world?
I'm going to get stick for this. And I didn't have it as my meal, but in Peru, guinea pig is a local delicacy. And I didn't order it. Somebody else at the table ordered it, but I did try some of it. And it's very chicken-like. So it was actually nicer than I thought it was going to be. But the thought of eating a guinea pig is just, no, I couldn't do it. But yeah, it was the best food I could try.
There is parents all over the world listening to this thinking, cover my kids' ears. The guinea pig is fine, don't worry.
That's a local delicacy in Peru. It's what they eat. It's on the menu.
Who has the best fans besides Scotland?
There's a few. I like the Dutch. I think they're always great. The Brazilians love to samba. The Argentinians have been great fun. Any group of fans that wants to have a party atmosphere and have fun, win, lose or draw, will make it for me. So there's so many candidates, but those are the right criteria. Those are the right credentials. I mean, the Brazilians, were partying with us after we lost 3-0 and were having a great time. But even when they lost, they're still doing the samba. They're still having a good time. The Dutch would have a good time when they lose as well. It's, yeah, any set of fans that can enjoy themselves even when they get beat will do it for me.
I've seen an Iraqi woman being interviewed on Boston TV, one of their channels, and they said, "Oh, this is your first World Cup. Do you think you'd come back again?" And she said, "Only if I can see the Tartan Army." It was she wasn't even interested in the game. It was the atmosphere that had been produced by the Tartan Army. So there you go.
It's really important to not understate the importance of that particular point. We don't care about what's on TV. We don't care about what politicians do to start wars and create conflicts. They're a football fan. We're a football fan. We both want our team to win. We're both going to go on there and support our team. And we'll both pose for photographs all the time. And we'll have a good time. We'll drink a few beers. And it is literally what football's about. It's bringing together the cultures. And you know, I think it's come a long way. Worst point in football times was probably the mid-80s, where there was a lot of trouble. Nowadays, the trouble is much, much less, and only some countries seem to participate in that. But a lot of it's now much more community-based and much more socially welcoming. And that, I think, has been the biggest change I've seen in football in 40-odd years of watching it. So.
That has been huge. What word would you describe to kind of, for this tournament itself, just in terms of overall experience?
Absolutely fantastic. It was exceptional in all ways.
It was.
I was in New York, I was in Newark, I was in Boston, I was in Miami, I was in Orlando. Even in Orlando, we were in Kissimmee and walked into a bar there, and people got excited because two Scotsmen walked into a bar with kilts on. "Are you the Tartan Army? Have we wanted to meet your Tartan Army? I've been seeing all the stories about Boston." It didn't matter where you were, you just got a free pass in lots of ways that you were made to feel so welcome right from the start. So,
last question. When people look back at Scotland's World Cup in America in, like, say, 10 or 20 years' time, what do you hope that will be remembered the most?
I actually think if you listen to the pundits and the commentators, and whether it's Gary Lineker on the BBC, whether it's Graham Souness, whether it's anybody else, the Tartan Army is the words that come to their lips every time they talk about the World Cup. They don't talk about the team, they don't talk about the results, they don't talk about performance or individual players. They almost always mention the Tartan Army. And I think that's what will be remembered. And actually, a small little side note, there's only one team ever, one set of fans ever been awarded an award at a football tournament, and that was the Scottish fans in Sweden, I think, in 92. They won a special award for being the best fans at the tournament. And it was widely recognised, I think, in the Euros. The Scottish fans were the best fans there. The Dutch were second, but never even got half the votes we got. And I've seen some of the polls in America talked about the Scottish fans being top of the list as well. So I think that's what the memory will be of the World Cup, the Tartan Army.
Well, I can confirm that the Tartan Army did win the award for FIFA's best fan of the year. Craig Ferguson, he won the individual, but I think the Tartan Army as well. I read the other day that they had won as a group as well. So I think that goes to exactly what we've been talking about throughout this episode, is just how widely accepted the Tartan Army were and how well they were welcomed, but also how well behaved, not even an arrest in Miami. And that speaks to, like, what you said earlier about self-policing and making sure everyone behaves themselves. And that's phenomenal. And I think that's something that everybody will remember.
That's where the Tartan Army really founded, was probably around about the late 80s. Became a theme, and the kilts and the Glengarries and the bagpipes and everything else became part and parcel of it all. And the charity started to form around about then as well. So I think it was around about then. It's been going a long time, and the self-policing goes on. And people like me who don't drink, if one of the Tartan Army who doesn't actually drink, I'm the one that looks after the people who've had too much to drink late on at night, or they've lost their wallets, or lost their keys, or lost their phones. I need to get back home. Can you get me a taxi? There's enough of us around to do that. But yeah, I mean, I've seen people who've worse for wear. We just get them water. We make sure they're okay. We make sure they've got their friends there. We make sure they get back safely. It's what we do. And yeah, that's why it will continue. And long after I'm gone from here, but the Tartan Army will continue. And actually, there's one song they sing. Ted Christopher does a lot of songs and a lot of gigs at away trips. But the one song they'll sing is Sunshine and Leith for friends who have fallen from the Tartan Army. So people who've passed away since their last trips. And that song is sung now. It's a typically Hibs song in Scotland, But you get Hearts fans and Rangers fans and Celtic fans who are all part of the Tartan Army. We don't talk about club, it's all country. You'll never see a Scotland fan wearing a club colour. It's all about country, where they're wearing just the Scotland jerseys. And we'll always sing that song on every trip, and it's all about sunshine and Leith, to remember the people who are no longer with us. And everybody sings it. So yeah, we've got a lot of special songs for a lot of special reasons.
Yeah, definitely. Well, John, thank you so much for coming on. It's been phenomenal to have you be out there and be able to give us what you experienced out there. It's absolutely phenomenal. Yeah. Thank you so much. And here's looking forward to the Euros in 2 years.
Yeah, thanks, James. I'll look forward to speaking to you again soon sometime, maybe. Bye
Definitely.
for now.
Cheers.